to do things abnormal. I mean, there's no reason for that. If he's trying to get away with this load, there's no reason to try to force other vehicles off. So and see, as he goes by the car, he doesn't really go after the car so much except for that one. But the big rigs, he seems to want to get next to them, then taunt them and move over and try to force them to leave that lane. Nothing really aggressive, but just enough. A big rig driver, like I said, these things are not that maneuverable, and a trained driver is going to do whatever he can to get himself out of harm's way in a hurry if somebody is encroaching on them to where they can. But you can see here, there's a unit sitting at the bottom down there, two more units waiting there.
Yep.
Yeah, so everybody's keeping an ear on this, and they know it's coming to their area, and they're just sitting waiting to see if it comes off in their town or if it continues on the freeway. But like I said, he's just using all ends of the freeway, just kind of meandering around, not doing anything really crazy. He's not whipping back and forth, luckily, because once the inertia of that vehicle, starts moving, all that weight, it's kind of hard to control it. It'll start going out of control. And we don't know.
Let me just jump in here quickly. When there was the convergence of the other CHP officers there, we're wondering if there were some spike strips that were put out there, and maybe we didn't see that just because our vantage point is so far away. And then we saw Skyfox just zoom into those mid tires there to see if there was any damage done. So we're working to confirm and see if, in fact, spike strips were put out. That is the only way to bring this thing to an end. You can't do a pit maneuver. And this reminds me of, we cover these pursuits, and there are more than you would imagine that get away. And that usually happens when it's a much smaller, more nimble vehicle, when you can go into a parking structure and make a run for it. We've seen that often on our air. But, Tim, given the size of this thing, the big rig, you're not going to get away. I mean, you're just not going to get away.
Okay, I'm noticing dust or something coming up here every once in a while. You see dust come up from the side of it. So I don't know if it got to that. You see it right there coming up? Yeah. So it may have been a spike strip.
Yep. We're getting confirmation. We're getting confirmation from CHP that, in fact, you're seeing the sparks. Yep. Oh, this is not going to end well. So the CHP did successfully deploy a spike strip, and we see the damage that has been done to the front tire. And Tim, walk us through this as we're seeing the rubber completely gone now when we're on the rim, and we're in speeds of 50. There it goes. The rubber is gone. Now we're on nothing but the rim.
Yeah, it starts tearing off the rubber because it heats up and starts melting. That is a big bumper. You just got ripped off by the rubber flying from the rim. And what's going to happen now is the maneuverability, the steerage of this vehicle is going to be very difficult because the drive is coming from those four wheels in the back. That's where the drive is coming from. The front wheels are merely for steering. And so did they get both front tires? Did they just get the left front? So right now you see a rim is down all the way to the metal. There is no rubber on there at all. And you can see it's kind of weaving a little bit more. So, if the other tire got hit on the other side, it's going to get to a point to where it's not going to have directional control.
Well, we're hearing, Tim, that it was a success on the right front tire as well.
Oh, good. That's excellent. So now he's not going to be able to do speeds of any magnitude now because the problem is he's not going to be able to steer it. Once he starts drifting, and if he starts moving a direction too fast, he's not going to be able to change directions. He's either going to go over the side or into the center divider. So hopefully common sense and a little bit of common sense kicks in here to where he decides, you know what, I've given it my best. I'm going to give up, and we see the speeds coming down now.
Yep. I'm glad you clarified when you said common sense. We just saw more of the rubber go. Yeah. So he's now pulling over because I think at this point, we don't know who the suspect is. And it looks like this is now coming to an end with speeds into the 20s at this point, wobbly, which we saw even when the tires were there. Not a lot of common sense from this person, Tim, when you said maybe some common sense will kick in. Maybe that is happening now. Let's hope so. I mean, you're not going to go much further, and this can only end really badly if you think that you can outrun all of the officers who are behind you. So it seems this is only a matter of time, and now we're getting the other side, and yep, no front tires at all, Tim.
Right, and also I looked on the rear there. There was that left rear looked like it was flapping as well. So they got the left rear tires too. So yeah, he's losing drive, he's losing motion, and now he's lost steering, and just now it's pushing the cab along. And so very little control of that cab. So that's a good thing. It'll come to a slow stop, just pieces and parts falling off. And he's going to start dragging. He's going to grind those rims down so far. He's going to start dragging the frame of the big rig. And once it gets to that point, it's not going to be enough power to push it. And plus, we don't know what's in that container, how heavy it is. But when this thing comes to an end, it's up to that driver suspect to determine how this pursuit's going to come to an end tonight. If it just gets out, gives up, everything goes nice and smooth. If it turns into a standoff, then we're going to have to call for armored vehicles to come up, because officers really have very limited view. We see guys just fighting to keep that thing in a straight line. Officers have a very limited view of that vehicle, and also that driver has access to the back of that rig. As I mentioned earlier, they've asked the driver who had this vehicle, do you have any weapons in your sleeping compartment in the back? Yeah, he's fighting it really hard here, trying to keep it going. Yep. And so you see, once you get to the spot of that left rear, you see the rubber flapping on it. So they got that tire as well. And so he's having drive problems, he's having directional problems, and like I said, he's either going to get up into the center divider wall, fend against it, or over the side if he goes to the right. But looks like he's going to try and push this as far as it'll go until it just goes up the ghost. But he's grinding those front rims down.
Yeah, and it looks like, or is that just the residuals of those mid tires, if they're compromised at all as well? They're taking the brunt of this. So, by the way, this is 210 westbound. Exit there is the Baseline Road in Ontario. Speeds now 15 miles per hour. You saw how close the black and whites are behind, just sort of waiting this out along with the rest of us. Spike strips, let's give kudos to CHP. We believe it was CHP. That's what we understand it to be, that threw out those spike strips on the 210 westbound. So hats off to CHP officers who successfully did that and compromised, completely wiped out those two front tires. Now we're riding on nothing but rims. I'm reminded I have covered a big rig pursuit on the 5 that lasted a very long time. It was a similar situation, Tim, where the spike strips resulted in the two front wheels gone, and eventually it caught fire. And the whole front cab has caught fire. It did catch fire, and that's what brought that pursuit to the end. So hopefully we don't see flames erupt. I've seen it before. As I'm looking at the clock, it's now midnight. You're watching an extended version of Good Night LA, weeknights at 11 o'clock, usually a 30-minute newscast. We're in our 4th week, and this is now into a 60-minute Good Night LA, because we've been following this stolen big rig pursuit out of Bakersfield. It was picked up in Santa Clarita. We're now in Ontario, where we have former police officer Tim Lynn on the line as we watch this hopefully come to an end at any given moment. You're getting flashes, Tim, of the suspect behind the wheel, and I can't imagine what it's like to drive a big rig like this, but then to drive one without front tires.
I imagine it's quite difficult. I would think so, because he has very little directional control with the vehicle, and probably not a lot of drive, because I see that one tire on the drive wheels there flapping rubber as it goes along. And I remember that pursuit you were speaking about, Marla, is that it drags the frame on the ground after a while once he wears those front rims down, and the friction builds up that heat, and then you have all those parts of the engine there. You have a lot of oil, you have diesel fuel, and it's just a matter of time before it builds up enough heat where it starts igniting, the residual oils that are on the bottom of that rig. And so that's what happened on that other one you were talking about. That went for, I forgot how many hours through the area. It was through the area. It was quite a long pursuit, but this one here is kind of taking on the same profile as he picks up speed now, and this is not good. At 54 miles an hour without steerage, this could go sideways in a big hurry if he has to make any maneuver, or if that truck gets out of straight line and starts swerving on him, and he tries to overcorrect. So, we just don't know. But he's also been just grinding those front rims down, and the more they grind, the less control he has with his vehicle. And like you said, it's difficult enough to drive these big rigs with everything working properly. I can't imagine the difficulty he must be facing. And I use the word he because we don't know if it's a man or a woman driving.
Right.
But the driver to be able to control this thing with very little steerage, and then also, kind of flopping tires in the back to where, it's got to be something. You see pieces and parts just flying off, and pretty soon that
Tim,
frame is going to come down.
Yeah, I mean, given what we were just talking about, that former pursuit that we covered with this big rig, a similar situation, and I mentioned that the whole cab caught fire. This is exactly that scenario. The flames, or the spikes, I should say, sparks. So the sparks, after the spike strips did their job, the wheels, the tires completely gone, speeds now into the 50s. It's almost like this person has a death wish at this point, Tim.
Yeah, I don't think he's thinking at all, or he doesn't understand what's going to happen here when he loses total control of the vehicle or hits somebody. It's just a matter of time before he just will not be able to do this, and that flame will be on the ground. And if he stays on the gas pedal, it's going to end very badly for him. Like I said, if it goes over to the right side, there's a good chance he'll roll it. But if it goes in a center divider, unless he keeps his big speeds up, he may go through the center divider if he's at enough of an angle to it that he doesn't glance off. And then you see right there, as a unit was coming up on the freeway, he made kind of a move to the right, like he was after the vehicle, after the CHP vehicle that was coming up. But I can't imagine him having with this vehicle. As the sparks continue to grow under there, that's that friction I was talking about that's going to, and eventually it's going to get so hot and there's going to be so much grinding going on that, something's going to. And that's exactly what happened to that other big rig that we spoke about.
Yeah, so on that wide shot, we just saw those 3 CHP officers. We're seeing more debris fly off. Without the front tires, with all the sparks flying, and we're seeing, is it the axle there? I mean, at what point will this just give? Is that imminent?
Well, you see here, we're putting up the, looks like it's still coming from the rims, so the rims are still holding the frame off the ground. And like I said, at a point when those rims will grind down and eventually start getting down into the frame. You're seeing more underneath the truck.
I think you're seeing flames.
Yeah.
I think we're actually seeing those flames.
What we talked about, and now it's going to catch fire, and he's going to have to make a decision here. How much further am I going to drive this with it in flames? And eventually it'll come up to the floorboard.
Yep, this is exactly what I was talking about.
Yep, exactly. So this is what's going to bring it to an end. It's going to be on fire. And one thing about it being on fire, that'll encourage him to get out of the truck. So it's not going to be a long standoff.
No, I mean, and since you do recall that other big rig pursuit where it ended literally with the whole cab igniting into flames, I mean, you saw that suspect at that point jump out as fast as they possibly could. So we could very well see this again. And look at all of those sparks, Tim. Look at all of those. And now you have to wonder about the CHP officers who are following behind.
Yeah, they're probably dodging coming off at him now, and as Skyfox swings around to the right side, you're seeing now that that's just metal being ground on the concrete, being pushed by that truck, and it's just going to work its way up and burn the side of the vehicle, and then start setting off. Now he's going to have to get away from the sound wall here, but it looks like we're off the freeway, maybe here at Haven, and so we'll see what happens once he gets over here. But he's up on the side of the freeway. And now you're going to have to worry about...
And now you think about the trees. Okay, now we've stopped. Yeah. We've stopped, and now those flames could very well light up the hillside. And now you see the suspect running, making a run for it up the hill, Tim, doing his darndest to get to the top. He's making good ground considering, but you know that those CHP officers, they are there too. And there is a big retaining wall, as we're seeing, certainly a male suspect here. Looks like maybe a red. Now, how are you going to get over? How are you going to scale this wall?
It's going to be tough unless there's an access. They do have accesses along the way. There are little doors that go through to make access for fire department, but you're going to have some very fit. Well, he's over the fence and on to
there he is. Yep,
the
still
road
got him.
And running. But you're going to have some very fit CHP officers coming over the freeway wall there and taking off with it. The Ontario, actually the San Bernardino County Sheriffs are overhead now, and they're probably communicating with Ontario PD to where the suspect is going. He's going up to a house.
Going into, is this a single unit home? Yeah, it looks like with a backyard. Yeah. This is Hermosa Avenue, by the way. And so we're seeing, you know, obviously the suspect's trying to figure out, where can I go? Where can I hide? I hope whomever is home, doors are locked. Looks like a young man, hat backward, hooded sweatshirt, gray, red interior here, now walking, trying to maybe play it cool.
There's a CHP officer going to come up on him. You see his flashlight going there, and now he's going to pick up speed. Yeah, the problem here is now you're going to hear, people are going to hear helicopters, they're going to hear sirens, and the one thing you do not want to do as a citizen is open your front door to see what's going on, because you might right at your front door just trying to find a place to go. My worry at this second doorknobs, my would be, should somebody be coming home now in their car and be pulling into this thing, because this guy will take the car in a heartbeat. But there's a CHP officer right behind him here and now has eyes on him. The problem, when he gets out of the car, then there may be a communications problem with the portable radio he's carrying, and the Ontario, or the San Bernardino County Sheriffs are overhead. So he's going to get caught.
It looks like the taser. You could see that the CHP officer just released the taser, perhaps.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw the yellow taser come out.
Yep, yellow taser came out. Now we're under the eaves here. So this is the Ontario area. You see now another CHP officer, perhaps. They tased him. We're getting word, another officer. Now it looks like they have that suspect on the ground.
Yep.
Obviously, we're not getting a great view of that, but there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it looks like, officers there. We saw that yellow taser come out, and then moments later, that suspect on the ground. Now, sky over, so you get really full perspective here of that big rig completely on fire, that cab. And we had talked about this, having covered a similar pursuit where it ended in the same fashion. A spike strip had damaged the vehicles so badly that those were gone, and then eventually, given that the suspect was not, and now thankfully it doesn't look like that hillside has caught fire, so let's hope that that doesn't happen. More CHP units descending on this neighborhood. What a rude awakening for these folks now that it's well past midnight on this now Thursday morning. We are getting word from CHP that that suspect is officially in custody, as now CHP has this scene to deal with. They need firefighters there as soon as possible to be able to get out those flames. You don't want this whole thing. We don't know what's in the container, the shipping container too, that this big rig was carrying. So as we look at this, I want to recap what we've just watched unfold here on Good Night. A stolen big rig pursuit that came to an end in Ontario. in Bakersfield. We picked it up in Newhall on the 5. It's now come to an end on the 210 freeway. Obviously, this freeway is now shut down because of this activity. The suspect driving this could no longer drive anymore until this thing was up in flames, then made a run for it into the up above. And now that suspect has officially been tased and now has been taken into custody. I suppose the best thing that we can say is that no one was hurt, no one was injured in this really wild pursuit involving this big rig. Of course, we feel for the big rig driver who essentially got carjacked at that gas station. If I didn't say that, I don't think I made that clear in my recap. There was a big rig driver who was pumping gas in Bakersfield when that suspect carjacked this big rig. So we feel for that big rig driver who did get carjacked, and of course, you know, this is probably his livelihood. So we feel for him. We're glad though that no one was hurt. We're glad that this has come to an end. I suspect it's just a matter of time until until firefighting crew gets there to put out those flames, but CHP units are on it. We want to thank former police officer Tim Lynn for being with us for about the last hour here on Good Night LA. Could not have done it without you, Tim. I appreciate your expertise and your time. Hope you can now close your eyes and rest easy knowing that the suspect is in custody, Tim. Thanks so much for being with me tonight.
You're welcome. Glad to help out.
Okay, and for you at home watching along on Channel 11, we appreciate you. Obviously, we will continue to follow this, and we will have the very latest in just a few more hours. Starts. That's at 4 a.m. in less than 4 hours with Bob DeCastro and Brooke Thomas. And for now, as we send you off to sleep, I hope, here's an image of that big rig cab that is in flames. Let's hope that those flames get put out sooner than later. All right, that does it for me. I'm Marla Tejas. Thanks so much for being with me tonight. We'll send you off to programming already in progress.